What are you trying to do right now? Again, just kind of getting the lay of the land and getting to know the area a bit better?
Well, I know the area very well. I've done business up here in Lackawanna, Tonawanda, Cheektowaga, Jamestown. I've done a lot of business up in this area. I've had a lot of friends up here, so I'm not a stranger to Western New York. And as a governor, I will be here a lot. You need a lot of economic development here and job creation. There's not enough economic prosperity in this part of the state, and we need to build that up. And as governor, that's one of the things that I want to do, as well as making safer communities and supporting law enforcement, and making sure that every community is safe and secure in New York State.
As you're well aware, everybody nowadays is talking affordability. What would you do in terms of trying to make New York State more affordable?
You know, that's a great question. I think the way to make New York more affordable is to create prosperity, to create better jobs, higher paying jobs, jobs with better benefits. If people have more money in their pocket, things will be more affordable. I don't want government giving people a free bus ride and saying, okay, now it's affordable. That's not the way to make it more affordable. The way to make it more affordable is through the private sector. We are the most overtaxed and overregulated state in the United States, and that's why businesses are moving out. That's why there hasn't been any job creation. I want to create jobs. I want to make people happy again in New York. They're miserable under Kathy Hochul because she doesn't develop the economy the way that she should, that we don't create the jobs that we should. People want more money in their pocket so they can make choices, not government, on how they spend their money.
In terms, though, of how you would create jobs, what kinds of things would you talk about in terms of job creation and economic development? Can you give me any examples or specifics?
Sure. So first of all, we are highly overregulated. There are a lot of regulations that don't make any sense. They're stupid rules. Those are the things that impede businesses from investing in New York State. And we're overtaxed. We've got to reduce the taxes so that businesses will want to locate here. And we've got to reduce people's taxes so they have more money in their pockets, so it's more affordable for them to live in New York State. I would also I would invest in cheap energy. I think that along the southern tier of New York, we have tremendous natural gas reserves. People on the border who live in Pennsylvania, they're driving brand new Cadillacs. On the New York side of the border, they're driving 25-year-old rusty pickup trucks. I want to change that. I want all of New York State to be prosperous. I want New Yorkers to be happy again, and that's by creating economic development, producing jobs, just like I did in Nassau County. We have to market this state as being friendly towards business. Right now, business looks at this state as if everything this state stands for is anti-business. So we've got to change the culture here.
In terms of realizing, anybody who's running as a Republican realizes that because of the Democratic majority in terms of their margin of registration, the New York City power base, you're from closer to that area than we are. But how do you counter, when knowing that the governor has tried to garner all that support, how do you counter that? So I guess you could call it a monolith. How do you deal with the Democratic Party and the fact that they have such an edge in this state? How do you counter that as a Republican?
Well, they had a tremendous edge in my county. There's 110,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. I won 4 years ago against a popular Democrat incumbent because I talked about safer communities. I talked about economic prosperity, creating jobs, creating wealth for families. And I won re-election in a night that was very bleak for Republicans across the United States in a Democratic county in a landslide. I got 56% of the vote. And I got votes in areas that don't traditionally vote Republican. I got a majority of the Hispanic American vote. I got a majority of the Asian American vote. I got independent women who voted for me. And on top of that, African Americans typically give about 9% of their vote to Republicans. I got almost 32% of the African American vote in my county because I reached out to those communities that don't traditionally vote Republican. I didn't change my values. I wasn't a phony. I talked about my values, but at the same time, I talked about things not that we disagree about, but things that we can agree about. And what I found in every community in New York State, people want a better life for their children. They want a safer community for their families. So I'm the guy that can deliver that, and I will be elected the next governor of this state.
Where do you think Kathy Hochul is most vulnerable?
Well, it's just been one failure after another. The fact of the matter is hundreds of thousands of people have left the state. People vote with their feet. They're unhappy. When I go to North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida or Texas, the people there are happy. People here are miserable under Kathy Hochul's lack of leadership. She's anti-business. She's invested $5 billion in illegal migrants who've been here for 15 minutes when that money could have been used to cut taxes. It could have been used for schools to educate our children. It could have been used for hospitals. It could have been used for infrastructure. I'm going to put New Yorkers first. She puts illegal migrants first. They haven't earned anything, and she's giving them billions of dollars of our taxpayer money. That's wrong. I'm going to change it.
I was going to throw something at you that is really Western New York centric, and I don't know if you've had a chance to learn about it. The Kensington Expressway. This is a major project here with a highway that goes through downtown Buffalo. The state wanted to spend $1 billion in conjunction with the federal government to cover that because they claim that communities of color on the east side were dislocated and separated and what have you. When you hear about projects like that, and I'm not expecting you to have a great knowledge of it because it's not in your area, but when you hear about projects like that, what would you say to people here when you hear about a $1 billion project to cover a highway on the east side of Buffalo?
So these are the things that lack common sense that Governor Hochul has implemented in New York State. That's why people are leaving the state, because it doesn't make sense. It adds to their tax burden. Every decision that's made by me will be made on whether it benefits the communities, whether it's cost efficient, and whether it makes sense, common sense. And that sounds to me like it lacks common sense. It sounds to me that it's a lot of money being invested in something that's not going to produce results and make people's lives better. I want to make people's lives better. I want to make them happy again. And unfortunately, under Governor Hochul, this has been a state where people are miserable. They're leaving this state. And it's because of the lack of common sense in her programs, such as this, that add to the tax burden and make it harder for families to be able to afford to live in New York State.
Two more questions, and I'll let you go because I see him looking at his watch. Sorry. That's okay. With dealing with what is probably, unless you have a coattail effect, a Democratic-controlled legislature, how would you counter that if you are elected governor in knowing, again, that's that monolith there in Albany? How would you deal with the speaker? How would you deal with a majority leader in the state Senate?
Well, first of all, I had coattails in my last election. We won every Republican incumbent, and we picked up 2 additional seats. So I expect that I will have coattails. But I think realistically, there'll probably be a majority, at least one house of the legislature, and maybe both, that are Democrat. And the way I will deal with that is I will call in the Speaker, Carl Hastie, and the Senate Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and we'll bargain, we'll negotiate, we'll horse trade. I know I'm not going to get everything that I want, but I think I'll get a fair amount of what I want. And as my parents taught me as a young child, half a loaf's better than nothing. So if they enter into good faith negotiations with me, I think we can accomplish a lot. I know I'll have to give them something. You don't get anything unless you give something in return. But I'm a businessman. I'm a negotiator. So I think we'll sit down and we'll work things out. So I have no issue with dealing with a Democrat majority if there is a Democrat majority in one or both of the houses.
I will beg his indulgence. When you say businessman, what is your background before you got involved?
Well, first of all, I've been a bartender, a busboy, a janitor, a bouncer, worked in the back of a garbage truck. I've had a lot of different jobs. They all added to my experience and the wisdom that I think I have. I've been out in the business world as a developer in real estate. I'm a lawyer. I practice law. I've represented some of the biggest corporations in the United States as a consultant. So I come from the private sector, but I've also got a lot of experience in the government sector. And I think that's unique. I have the ability to understand business and at the same time understand how government works and operates.
You're probably going to be labeled as the Trump candidate in this state. You're probably well aware of that, and I know you know the president. How are you going to deal with that, again, in a state that's very, very blue?
Well, Kathy Hochul wants to talk about Trump. I want to talk about my record of achievement and her record of failure in New York State. We're going to make this race about her record. And as much as she wants to cry about Trump and scream about Trump, Trump didn't make this state less affordable. Trump didn't make this state less safe. It was Kathy Hochul. Trump didn't give $5 billion of our taxpayer dollars to people who've been here for 15 minutes when it could have been spent on New Yorkers. I want to put New Yorkers first. She can talk about Trump all she wants, but I'm going to hold her to her record, and I'm going to contrast her record with my record. My record is one of achievement, of making people happy. Hers is one of failure, making people miserable. So we're going to compare records. She can talk about Trump as much as she wants. I'm going to talk about her record.
I will ask you one last question in terms of your area, which I heard about from a political analyst last week. He had said that some rumblings are starting that Nassau County is going to face a big debt situation, a big deficit problem, that there have been some warnings about how the government is run there under your stewardship. How would you respond to people like that? Are you concerned that'll become an issue in the campaign?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a Democratic operative that's done that. It is somebody that is clearly, well, with both feet in the Hochul camp. Look, I've managed a $4.3 billion budget without raising taxes in 4 years. I canceled a $150 million tax increase. I've hired 600 new law enforcement professionals. And guess what? I got 7 bond upgrades in the last 3 years from Wall Street. So the Wall Street experts believe that I'm doing a great job, that we're managing our economy and our fiscal budget in a way that is cost efficient and respectful of the taxpayers' investment in government. So we've had a great 4 years. We're going to have another great run at it. But by this time next year, I'll be the governor of the state of New York, and I'll start turning around this economy and making this a more affordable place to live, a place where people can be proud to raise their family, and people will be happy again with me as governor.
Okay, I will ask one more.
Okay.
The Stefanik situation, she seemed to have the backing of all the party, not everybody, but 62 out of how many party chairs, including our party chair here, who was going to work for her. What would you say to other Republicans, that feel she was just kind of dissed by the president and pushed out, and that you were put in?
Well, first of all, Elise said that she was leaving because of her family, so we have to take her at her word. I am the only candidate for governor in the Republican and conservative parties that has executive experience with a government that's larger than 8 to 10 states in population. I already have the experience. I got the track record. We are a prosperous county. We have the lowest poverty rate in the state of New York, and people are generally happy, or they wouldn't have elected me in a landslide. So I am very confident that I will have the backing of all the party leaders. They are now unifying behind my candidacy, and we will win Republicans, conservatives, but we'll also win independent voters, independent women, independent men, and common sense Democrats will vote for me because they don't like the way Kathy Hochul has managed the affairs of this state.
Anything else you want to say?
I think we covered everything.
I think so too. Well, climate. One more. What do you think? Okay. Well, do you want to say about the climate law?
I love the climate of Western New York. It's very robust here. I enjoyed tailgating. It was a balmy 29 degrees with some snow on the ground. Typical Western New York. You've got a hearty bunch up here, and the people up in Western New York are great people. I love them, and they're just the salt of the earth, and they're going to be happy with me as governor.
Well, I meant the climate law, but that's okay.
I know what you meant.
Yeah. Okay.